I've gone a bit left field with my reflection today after watching a documentary last week called Hip Hop Songs That Shook America. I'm not sure how many people watching this reflection are regular listeners to hip hop. If I was a betting man, I would say probably not many. But sometimes, as Christians, it's useful for us to reflect not just on the Bible or on a well-acknowledged Christian saint. Sometimes it's useful for us to reflect on the products of popular culture and to engage with that from a Christian perspective. We live immersed in popular culture, and it will be influencing us whether we realise it or not. And so making the choice to actively engage with music and films and TV from outside of the Christian world, if you can even talk about a Christian and a non-Christian world, it's more complex than that, as I'll come on to. That's vital if we're going to discern what messages from popular culture are there and what we can accept, what we need to challenge or even reject. And so I want to do a bit of that engaging today using the song from episode 1 of Hip Hop Songs That Shook America. Now, this song was released now some 17 years ago, which is slightly frightening to me. It was released back in 2004, but it's worth reflecting on, even though it's 17 years since its release, because it still influences hip hop as a genre today, and thus it influences popular culture. And the song is Jesus Walks by Kanye West. You might have heard this song, but even if you've not heard the song, you might have seen Kanye West on the news. His very public struggles with mental health, his marriage to Kim Kardashian, followed by their separation, and now maybe possibly they're getting back together. Who knows? You may or may not find that interesting. I can't say I find that side of things that interesting. But he's in the news a lot, and you may have some particular feelings about Kanye West from the little or lot that you know about him. Put that aside for one moment. And actually, if you haven't heard the song, or if you've not heard it for a while, I would encourage you to take a pause from this video in a moment and listen for the 3 and a bit minutes to the song before you continue on with this reflection. There's a link below this video to the song. And just be warned, it is a song where some of the lyrics, you might find them offensive. But as a Christian, I would say that it's important for us to engage and to understand rather than judging and taking offense. So click on the link below to watch the song and listen to the song now. After this reflection, you might want to watch the documentary on BBC iPlayer that I mentioned earlier, that this kind of song reminded me of this song and got me reflecting. So there's a link below for that as well. And if you've not used iPlayer before on the device you're on, then you might need to create a free account and sign in before you can watch it. But it shouldn't be. It should be possible for you to do that. And if you've got any difficulties, do give me a call. So, Jesus Walks. Well, it won the Grammy Award for Best Rap Song in 2004. It was nominated for Song of the Year. And Rolling Stone magazine, the sort of big music magazine, has included it both in lists of the best songs of the 2000s and in lists of the best songs of all time. But why was it and why is it such a big deal? Well, if you've listened to it by now, which I hope you have, you'll have heard that it talks about God and Jesus, but that it does so alongside swearing, references to drug dealing, and all manner of other things that we would perhaps not consider Christian themes. And that was a big deal because before Jesus Walks, there was by and large an absolute divide within hip hop between sort of what you would call secular hip hop, which was often filled with profanity and violence and gang culture, and Christian hip hop, which was an entirely separate kind of category with clean lyrics and wholesome topics, and sort of never would the two meet. But then suddenly, when Kanye West releases Jesus Walks, the divide between the music of the streets and the music of the church is blown apart. And as I'm sure you can imagine, the church reacted strongly to the perceived blasphemy of talking about God alongside swearing and immorality, especially because Kanye West himself was a controversial figure who wasn't by any means an exemplary Christian role model, and yet he was singing about God and in this interesting context. But what the song did, which I think had a significant effect on popular music and popular art, was to open up the possibility for hip-hop artists and others to speak of faith in their music, to address the spiritual dimension of life in their art. Mainstream hip-hop was no longer limited to songs about sex, gang violence, conspicuous consumption. Suddenly, it was possible to speak about journeys of faith, about the complexities and the contradictions that we all face as we engage with God and the world and get pulled in different directions. Now, although the song was released 17 years ago, its influence is still evident today in the music of multi-million selling and streaming artists like Chance the Rapper and Stormzy. They're some of the most influential figures in urban culture and art today, and they will sing regularly about faith alongside some of the more conventional themes of hip-hop. And even on a personal level, my own faith was deeply influenced, believe it or not, by Jesus Walks when it was released. It was released when I was a teenager, not long after my conversion to Christianity. And at the time, I was working through how I got pulled both towards God and towards the worldliness that was on offer around me. And Jesus Walks gave me words and music for that internal struggle. So let's take a closer look at some of the lyrics and reflect on them for a bit for the last part of this reflection. And first, the lyrics, they vividly portray some of the contradictions of our lives and the lives of those around us. The song opens by West saying that we are at war with ourselves. And throughout the song, it expresses this sense of deep inner conflict. There's the refrain of, God, show me the way, because the devil's trying to break me down. That gets repeated throughout the song. And I think that battle exists within all of us, between good and evil, between God and the devil. And the song goes on to declare that Jesus walks with hustlers, killers, murderers, drug dealers, and it seems almost offensive until you remind yourself that Jesus walked with, ate with sinners. He didn't say, clean yourself up and then I'll be with you. He walked with those who were open to him, who needed him, regardless of whether they got their lives sorted. Faith that happens amidst the mess and the mistakes of our lives. We don't need to be drug dealers to know something of the mess and the mistakes that can make us feel separate from God or struggle between good and evil. We all experience that in one way or another. But God doesn't draw a neat boundary between those who are acceptable and those who are not. God offers his presence equally to all. So in reminding us of this inner conflict, the song reminds us not to judge others, but, like Jesus, to walk alongside them and to accept Jesus walking alongside us, regardless of our own mess. And I think it's a particularly beautiful fact about the song Jesus Walks, that the choral background that you hear in the song kind of all the way through, it's sung by the Addicts Rehabilitation Centre choir, a choir of broken people singing beautifully of their need for Jesus to be with them in that place. The song also acknowledges how, because of the messiness of our lives, we can feel alienated from God. Kanye cries out, "I want to talk to God, but I'm afraid because we ain't spoke in so long." That's true of many people in our post-Christian cultures today. People who grew up with faith but feel like they've lost it along the way. People whose choices have made them feel like they are unacceptable to God and that they can't speak to him, they're not worthy. Or even people who've been going to church for years and still go to church, but somewhere along the way, they stopped speaking to God. Jesus Walks encouraged me and encourages us that whatever has happened in our lives, wherever we are in our journey, we can still come back to God. It's never been too long. We've never put ourselves beyond God's ability or willingness to walk with us. We might be afraid, we might be reluctant, but if we want to speak to God, we can. And the final thought that I have today about this song is how it reminds us that there is no sacred, secular divide. This was a shock in 2004 to the world of hip hop, with its neatly compartmentalized secular and Christian. But there's not God and faith over here, and then the world and ungodliness over here. Everything it's all mixed in together. You can find darkness and evil in the midst of the church. And you can find truth and light and hope in the songs of a hip hop artist. The church might sometimes claim or act like it has a monopoly on the holy and on things spiritual. But actually, we can find God in surprising places. Yes, we can find God in the church, in the Bible, through singing worship songs and hymns, through praying with one another. We absolutely can find God in those things. But as we engage with the world around us, which may not be explicitly Christian, let's be ready to receive God's grace and truth and light. As the song teaches us, as Kanye West teaches us, Jesus walks with us at all times, in all places, whatever our circumstances. Amen. And just a reminder again, if you want to watch the documentary that got me mulling these things over, then Hip Hop, Songs That Shook America, available on BBC iPlayer. Do take a look, and I'd love to hear what you think, both of the song and of the documentary. But it's lovely to have a chance to reflect today with all of you. Bye-bye.